Good morning, everybody. Except it's evening. Yeah, I turned into a real wuss this year. Like last year, I didn't miss a day riding my bicycle and exercising. It didn't matter how cold it was. And we had some days that were in the 30s. This morning, it was like 45, and I'm like, nope, too cold. Not going to ride my bicycle. So I did not ride my bicycle. Anyway, guys, welcome to, we're at the end of January. Can you believe that? January is already over. For me, that is just flipping crazy. But this is episode 32. You'll be watching this at the beginning of February. How freaking cool and wild is that? Anyway, today's episode is about a question I ask on Facebook. I've been having fun asking questions on Facebook, getting audience participation. And sometimes I get surprised and sometimes everything's pretty standard. But I asked the question of if you could give a piece of advice to a new rider, what would that be? And I got answers all over the board. So rather than putting them in like a top 5 list or anything, I'm just going to name off a few of those and kind of give you my thoughts on them. So none of these are in particular order. These are just ones that people suggested and I thought were really good suggestions. And then I got a couple at the end that nobody ever suggests that come from me personally that I think are hugely important. And like I said, nobody ever says anything about them. So I'm going to say something about them at the end of this. But first off, let's get started. One of the big things people said was to always act like every car does not see you. And I agree with this 100%. If you're coming up and you've got a green light, double check that those cars stopped. Four-way stops. Make sure they saw you and they're not going to come across in front of you. When they're pulling out. So I watch for a car's movement. When I'm coming up and they're sitting, I watch for the wheels to turn. That is one thing that I can identify by eyesight that lets me know that they are moving. When I'm riding beside a car, I try not to as much as possible, but sometimes it's inevitable. I try to be in a position where I can see their face in the mirror. If I can see their face, that means they can see me. But I'm very conscious of them being able to see me. Another big deal in the motorcycle world is a lot of accidents are cars turning left in front of motorcycles. Now, what happens, at least I see this all the time, somebody's in the left turn lane and there are cars, say you're in the middle or the right lane and there are cars between you and that car. If you cannot see the car, they cannot see you. So I'm always extra cautious if that's the case. I'll even speed up to stay beside the car just because I saw a car that's getting ready to turn and they may not see me. So that one is one I keep like an extra close eye on. Anybody that is turning left, I want to make sure they see me or I'm out of their way. Because unfortunately, that is a big percentage of motorcycle wrecks. Another thing that people said was, I can't remember. Damn it, let me look it up. Oh, another big one is to watch where you want to go and not where you've been. So always be looking at where you're planning on going. I'm looking way ahead when I ride. So when I see brake lights, I don't see the brake lights in front of me. I see the brake lights 15 cars ahead of me. I am looking that far ahead. When they start to hit their brakes, I know that the guy in front of me is going to start hitting his brakes. Especially on the highway. I watch way ahead because any brake checks up there means that it's going to flow back to me. And it's a little harder to stop at 70, 75 miles an hour. Bikes don't stop all that great. It's just a fact of life. They do not stop all that great. And so you got to give yourself time to stop to get out of the way. So on a highway, I like to be in either the left lane or the right lane. I don't like to be in the middle lane because on the left lane, I can go off to the left. In the right lane, I can go off to the right. Somebody said always have an escape route. That's not a bad plan. Always have an idea where you can go to get out of the way because they're a lot bigger than you and they will smash you. Another big one was take a rider's course. Some people said even take the more advanced courses. Now, I'm not a huge, what do I say? How do I say this? I've never taken a rider's course. I didn't have to take one when I got my license. Mama Badger has taken one, and I know lots of people that have, and they're great. But I can't hardly speak to this because I've just never taken one. Now, I worked at Harley, and I watched a lot of people take the rider's course, and honestly, I watched them take it, and then they get on a motorcycle, and I was scared to death to be around them. So it definitely hone your skill. Take that course, go out and practice. I know Angie practiced in our neighborhood for a few days before we even went out on the road. Make sure you feel comfortable before you go out riding that bike. Another thing people said was make sure you get a comfortable bike. Don't get a bike that's too big for you or too small for you to ride. So be conscious of that. What are you going to ride once you get your license, right? Because you got to be riding the correct bike. Or you're just going to struggle that much more as you get started. And the last thing you want to do is be uncomfortable. Scared of the bike? That's another thing. If you're scared of the bike you're on, that just puts you in that much more danger. So, of course, you want a bike that you feel comfortable on, you feel safe on. I personally, when we bought Mama Badger's bike, we bought her a couple $1,000 Honda Shadow. And the reason was I knew that she was probably going to drop it. And I just didn't want her to worry about that fact, right? You don't need to worry that, crap, I just spent 30 grand on a bike. If I drop this, my husband or my wife is going to kill me, right? That is not thoughts you need when you start out riding a motorcycle. So that is another thing. Make sure you have the correct bike when you get started on this great adventure. You'll love it as long as you have all of the correct stuff in order to make it fun. Another big one was ride your own ride. So a lot of people, when they get their license, then they go out and they want to ride with their buddies, right? A lot of people buy bikes because their buddies ride. So they want to ride with their buddies. The problem is their buddy's skill level is here and their skill level is here. And they try to take their skill level up to here instead of their buddies taking the skill level down to here. When Mama Badger first got her license, she followed me. We left for a 4,000-mile trip 2 weeks after she got her license. I didn't ride like I normally do. She followed me. I knew I had a new rider behind me, so I rode accordingly. I was, less fast through the corners. I just wasn't pushing the limit of the skill I had because I knew that she didn't have the same skill. So, ride to your skill level and comfort level. If your buddies are just going to take off and leave you, well, they're just going to take off and leave you, and they're probably not that great of buddies anyway. But ride to your skill level, you'll enjoy it much more. Now for the final couple, and these are the ones that people never mention, but you definitely need to know. 1, all the painted lines on the highway, when they are wet, are slick as snot. White, yellow, doesn't matter. Center lines along the outer lanes, the big arrows where you're turning. If you get on a turn ramp and you come off the highway, and you're coming off the highway fast, right? If you hit your brakes going across that, they're slick as snot. So that is one big thing that nobody ever mentions, but those painted lines are super slick. So be careful anytime you're going over the painted lines and the pavement is wet. And then the other thing is railroad tracks. So we tend to just kind of not even pay much attention to railroad tracks. And I'm not talking about looking out for trains. Those tracks are usually in pretty rough shape. Like, I've hit some that have almost thrown me off of my bike, and it reminds me to slow the hell down going over railroad tracks because you just don't know what you're going to hit when you pop up on those tracks. I've seen some of those tracks with holes in them. Your front wheel goes in, and I've literally seen Mama come flying off of her bike. So we've learned that we slow way down when we're hitting railroad tracks, because you just do not know what lies ahead of you when you pop up. Usually they're on a little hill. When you pop up that hill, watch the cars going over them before you. If it really makes a car bounce, it's going to do that on the motorcycle. The problem is, car has 4 wheels, so if there's just a hole up there, the car is going to go over it like nobody's business. You on the motorcycle, you are not. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I loved it when everybody got involved and gave us all this advice. And I wanted to pass this advice along to you because I thought it was great advice. There are many more things. Go on to our Facebook page, The Badgers and the Biker Lifestyle, or Support Bikers, and check out all the answers there. Anyway, guys, have a great night. I'm saying anyway an awful lot. Anyhow, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.